Now, there's still a lot of unanswered question around how covert activities at the camp went unnoticed for some time. To discuss this and other intricacies involved in this, I'm now joined by Professor Nirmala Gopal from KwaZulu-Natal's University of Criminology and Forensic Studies Department. Prof, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you very much for your time. Quite intriguing, this, and it's raising a lot more questions than have been answered so far.
Good evening to you, Leo, and your listeners. Thank you for having me. Absolutely, I can't agree with you more that it is actually generating more questions than answers.
Now, from what we have been told, the police have been working on this, trying to find out who these people are and what they are doing. But from the little that the Minister of Police and the Commissioner were able to say at the weekend, it doesn't look like the police had been monitoring these people as they claim to have done. It does look like these people were there for quite some time and no one knew actually of what exactly they're doing and how they got here.
Yeah, so I think it's very interesting, Leo. I mean, from the little that I've heard around this particular context, I think it was crime intelligence from SAPS that was actually able to generate the kind of evidence that they needed to actually mount a charge against the 95 Libyan nationals. But I think perhaps the question we should be asking is, how were they able to arrive at the camp, to reach the camp, kind of like unnoticed, because that's where our real issue is, that they arrived at the camp unnoticed by law enforcement and were undertaking this military training. So for me, there's a couple of questions. One is that even though we heard that they misrepresented the reason for entry into the country, namely that they were here on a study visa, 95 Libyan nationals, that should raise some red flags at the border control. And maybe at that point, we should have had someone ask or do a verification check. So that's the first question, and I've kind of answered it in some ways. But I think the second one for me, which is very critical as well, is military training in our country. And that could be a potential national security risk. We have, every country has official military training. And the fact that we are training foreign nationals in our own country in terms of military strategies, etc., what guarantees do we have that we won't be using them illegally in our own country for covert purposes? So I think there's lots of questions around that, and I'm hoping, and I suspect, though, that the interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary team consisting of DIRCO, South African Police Services, Home Affairs, etc., will come up with very important findings regarding this and what those implications could have been for our country in the first instance, because I think the national security might have been threatened, or there was a potential threat to national security in our country.
And especially since there are reports now, these guys are being linked to a Libyan strongman who once attempted a coup back in Libya.
Oh, that's a very serious comment to make, a statement to make as well. Yes. But I think also the other worry for me, and I'm sure many of the public, people of the public as well, is that why do people see South Africa as a space where they can undermine the rule of law? And I think, it's absolutely necessary that Home Affairs and, of course, this multidisciplinary team begins to restore the confidence of the South African public. That we got to make it so, I mean, our border control, what is happening in those spaces? Why is it that we're not, insisting on stricter border control measures, whether it's through the airports, sea, or land? And I think that's an important space for us to delve into greater detail.
Now, interesting also is the fact that the Private Security Industry Regulatory Authority actually registered this facility. But then last week, they then decided, a few days ago, that this facility the training activities should immediately cease, which in itself is also interesting. I mean, they had permission, and then now that permission has been withdrawn.
Yeah, I think it's hugely problematic, to say the least. It sounds to me, and I don't have all the facts, but what it sounds like to me is that the SARA is trying to absorb themselves. And I think it's going to be extremely critical then for SAPS to do their investigation so thoroughly that they are able to link whoever is part of whatever's taken place at that military or at that particular training site. So they've got to leave no stone unturned and bring to book all of those so-called, or when they become perpetrators or suspects, etc. And I think for once and for all, we need to start putting an end to these illegal activities that happen in our country. It really undermines the rule of law. It undermines the public confidence as well.
Now, the Minister of Police and the National Commissioner on Saturday said that upon their arrival at the facility, they then found, or they are now in possession of new information that he suggested will implicate these men in acts of wrongdoing, but both refused to divulge what they discovered there. But as far as we know from their brief appearance this afternoon, it's got to do with visa regulations only.
So, yeah, I think that's the one charge, a contravention of the South African Immigration Act of 2002. But I think there are other charges that would be probably included. For example, the presence of cocaine and other drugs. So that would be contravening the Drugs Act. And, depending on the legality of the weapons, I think they also had weapons. I'm not sure if they were South African weapons or they brought them in from Libya. But depending on the legal status of those weapons, an additional charge could be added to their list of charges. But I also think, I did hear our colleagues from SAPS provide their feedback a couple of minutes ago. I do think that this is going to be a very sensitive case, and it's going to be really critical not to divulge too much so that you forearm the suspects.
Do you think, there is sufficient attention being paid to the whole security industry in terms of training?
I don't think so. I think some of the challenges, Vuyo, is the fact that we have SIRA and then we have SAPS. And I think there could be some lines that are blurred between the two industries. And perhaps what we need to do, and I think that was an important question you asked, do we have sufficient attention? I think we, at some point, SIRA and SAPS should come back to the drawing board and unpack exactly what each one's roles and mandates are, and also to have a combined effective monitoring and evaluation tool or system. We don't know whether the M&E tools at the moment or even the act of monitoring and evaluation is as effective as it should be. We need a watchdog for that.
Professor Gopal, let's leave it there for now. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.